John, I bet there's a few people with opinions about Shedeur Sanders, about baseball, about hoops, because I told you so, and to talk puck. Go ahead.
There is a lot of Shedeur draft and NBA playoff stuff, but I'm going to go to the top of the list, Matthew, because you give us money, you go to the top of the list. We'll go to Matthew here, and he says, hey, I went to an FC Barcelona last week. What an amazing atmosphere. What's the best atmosphere you gents have been in? Also, Lee, will you cover the World Cup?
Well, we will cover the World Cup because that's how I got addicted to soccer. We always cover the World Cup. Hey, we're covering the English Premier League. We're covering MLS, SDFC. We cover it all. What kind of question is that? Yeah, Matthew, definitely when the World Cup gets here, we will be talking about that extensively. Atmosphere, I went to an English Premier League game while I was on holiday in England. Norwich City played Chelsea. And that was in the early days of my interest in the EPL. I'd never seen anything like it. And this is from somebody that's broadcast a Super Bowl and obviously been in NFL playoff games and those stadiums and covered World Series in person. That was pretty electric. That was pretty cool. So I had a blast. And the Chelsea Blue was dominant at that time in the English Premier League, and Norwich City was fighting not to go into relegation. And they had to win a game at home, and they beat them. They beat Chelsea, just played out of their mind. Wound up getting relegated anyhow. But, English Premier League is really cool. World Cup I love watching the World Cup on TV. I don't know if I'd enjoy the World Cup. I don't know if it's electric enough, exciting enough in terms of style. It's not the NBA. It's not the explosiveness of hockey. But I do like watching the World Cup on television. And your response is?
I remember really starting to follow the World Cup in '94 when they came to America the first time. And so I've been kind of following that along. But, I've also been to an EPL game. We went and saw Man City play Leicester City.
Oh, yeah.
And that was a lot of fun. I mean, that stadium is full and people are singing songs and everything else. It was a great atmosphere. But I'm thinking of other atmospheres that I've been to that are wonderful. Like Viejas Arena for an Aztec game is great. The way they do the introductions and everything. I love all of that. Of course, Petco Park is electric. I went to some games when I was doing business in Japan. I went and saw the Yakult Swallows and the Cebu Lions in different stadiums. And there it's a little bit like European soccer where they're singing songs and it's a different kind of an atmosphere. It's not so much, peanuts and Cracker Jack Americana as it is in the United States. But those are all great atmospheres. Of course, when the Chargers were at their peak, that was a great time at Qualcomm. And even the Marshall Faulk era was a great time at Qualcomm.
At San Diego Jack Murphy Stadium, as it was known then. Okay, thank you for the phone, for the items, Matthew. Stay with us. We will talk more soccer.
Yeah, the phone calls. Get those lines lit. Okay, let's go to Callan. He goes, afternoon, gents. Good grief, Saw. Playoff hockey remains the absolute best. St. Louis and Edmonton both punch back. Goalies are getting chased. Caps, Habs, throwing knuckle sandwiches. I bleep and love it.
Playoffs are entirely different atmosphere. It is so intense. And the regimen of hockey every other day. I mean, it's not like you can have 4 days off. It's every other day. So it's the toughest trophy to get. They're all best of 7 series. There is no one game play-in. There's no best of 3 in the first. You grind. It's best of 7. And the Canadian arenas are just electric. I email back and forth with guys in Canada, and they just tell me what's going on in Montreal-Washington series, even though the Capitals are going to win the series because Montreal's so young and have to learn how to win at this level at this time of the year. He said what went on Bell Center is just absolutely phenomenal. Just the fans' response to the franchise. And Toronto is a little bit more set back because that's Maple Leaf crowd. Edmonton's absolute nuts. And Winnipeg, they this thing called the whiteout. Everybody wears white jerseys. Winnipeg home games. It's really cool. Playoffs are great.
Well, the NBA playoffs are wonderful too. I mean, it's just a great time of the year. Now, I wanted to ask a question here. For one of them is, and this is kind of a weird question. We have goalies in hockey. We have goalkeepers in soccer, also known as keepers. Are there other names for goalies in hockey, or is it just goalie?
Just goalies.
They don't call them
Well,
keepers.
they call them net minders.
Net
Yeah.
minders. Okay.
But that's a 1920s term.
Okay. But yeah, this is a great time of year, and St. Louis and Edmonton punching back big time.
Yeah, a little bit of ill will there, although it hasn't. I'll be honest with you. Everybody was making a big thing about the Battle of Ontario. They thought the Maple Leaf Ottawa Senator series was going to be bloodshed, but it hasn't been that way. And even the Battle in the Sunshine State, Florida Panthers, Tampa Bay, and those are two really good franchises. That has not been filled with fights. So it's just been a little bit different in these playoffs. And the end-to-end action, we had stretches. I think in the Edmonton Kings game, we had stretches. There was not a whistle for 7 minutes. That was 7 minutes of rushes and line changes, etc. So the Kings got to respond. I did my job. I wore my gear. They got to win. Holy cow!
Well, you got purple on that logo. When's that from?
This is from when they changed the logo initially.
Okay, yeah. So this like from the 80s or something? Or
No. This is the more recent.
It is?
Well, yeah, when they changed the colors to black, purple, and silver.
Oh, I thought they're just black and silver.
Well, they are, but they do have purple in some other stuff.
Good. Purple's a good color. Hey, we got the purple curtains in here. So here, let's go here to William. And he goes, I didn't like that Chargers picking running back in the first round.
Well, they need to upgrade their skill level. And the wide receivers are off the board. I mean, the kid from Arizona, McMillan, was gone really early. I'm kind of surprised he went with the 10th pick. And then the Ohio State wide receiver, he went right in front of their choice. He went to Tampa Bay. So you weren't going to force it and take the third best wide receiver when you had the second best running back. Now, Will, I'll disagree with you because this kid is big time. This kid's power this time. This kid catches the ball out of the backfield. He's a complete big guy. And it's what Harbaugh wants to do. Now, the critics will come back and say, hey, dumbass, you got the same offensive line back that couldn't run block last year. What makes you think it's going to get any better? Well, they're changing some parts around there. And, this will be the second year that this offensive line group will be in the Harbaugh system. So maybe they're going to be proven. But Omarion Hampton, he was slated to go at the back end of the first round, and he went 22. I think he's a good player, good pickup.
Like, who else would you have picked? I mean, would there have been an alternative?
Well, if you could have gone after, there's a whole bunch of cover corners and DBs there, but they needed to upgrade the skill level around Justin Herbert.
Well, that's what you said. Is there anybody on this roster that scares you other than Justin Herbert and maybe McConkey?
Yeah.
And there was nobody. I mean, they had to get a running back or a star receiver.
Sometime during the draft, and they got an elite guy. I mean, this kid had 3,600 all-purpose yards, caught a ton of balls out of the backfield, and in a power-laden ACC, averaged 5.7 yards per carry. That wasn't in 15 minutes. That was over 2.5 years.
All right. So how do you think they're going to use Najee Harris and Hampton? Is like one of them going to be like a third down back, or they're going to get equal time?
I think equal snaps. And again, Najee is established, doesn't fumble the football. Hampton is a younger, more athletic back than Najee. Najee's more of a plugger and a grinder. So I think they're both going to play, maybe even Steven.
A plugger, a grinder, a sniper. I just love your vocabulary.
Thank you.
Okay, let's go here to Richard. He goes, fans forum for some. Hey, the draft is fun, but oh my God, the hype and the coverage is out of control. The endless draft insiders that flood corporate sports radio, the mindless mock drafts that mean nothing.
Well, everybody's got an opinion, so let's read the opinions and see. There's like 5 different NFL guys that I follow who do their own mock drafts. But again, that's just an opinion. You don't know what's going on in the video room and in these meetings and the general manager and the coach and the player personnel director. And you never know what's going to happen at the top of the draft. Like the team that took McMillan at number 10, the wide receiver. I said, geez, that's awful high for him. I didn't see hardly any drafts that had him going number 10, but you picked him number 10. So there's just a lot of strange stuff that happens, but that's okay. I am a little bit surprised, unless we haven't gotten to him. I thought more people had more opinions on Shedeur or on Kuiper.
Well, we're kind of sort of going in chronological order here,
okay,
which paralleled the topics on the table. But there is some Shedeur stuff. We're going to get to that, but just real quick on this one. There are, like, everybody and their brother's got a mock draft, but some of these mock drafts come out so early. It's almost like, people doing bracketology, 4 months ahead of the tournament. But I'll say this, though, that those guys, our lads, is a classic example of how in any given industry, you can go down a rabbit hole and you can go deep, 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 deep with quality information, quality content for things that the average sports fan would never understand or experience. Our Lads covers all of that in incredible detail with incredible intelligence, far more than, some Yahoo with a mock draft.
Yeah, they punch it up on the internet. And okay, I read that. This is obviously a lot more in depth. I've known these guys since the 1970s. They've been in business for a long time.
What an interesting niche market to be in.
Yeah, and the thing has exploded, obviously. Okay, Richard, thank you for being with us.
Okay, let's get a Shedeur comment here, and this is from Hector. He says, Lee, it's clear that Sanders dropped due to the John Riley factor. You have that much left field support without bringing up a bunch of red flags. Here, let me get another one in here. There are a bunch of different Shedeur comments. Let's go to John. He goes, I suspect that Shedeur Sanders' slide in the draft might be due to his dad. Was Deion guiding him through the pre-draft carousel, whispering in his ear? Could coaches and GMs be afraid of having Deion exercising undue influence over their organization? Do the coaches and GMs see the noise around an athlete like Colin Kaepernick as a potential distraction to their organization? That just isn't worth the effort.
I've had a number of different people bring up the Kaepernick name to me. You need to read my one man's opinion column that I wrote today. It's on my website. It is on Shedeur Sanders. What happened to Shedeur Sanders, how Shedeur Sanders acted, what people think about Shedeur Sanders. So if you like NFL football, you love the draft, feel free. That's just one man's opinion. It's on my website. It's absolutely free. Just type up leehacksawhamilton.com, go to the one man's opinion icon, punch that up. It'll take you right to the column. I at the end of the day, what one of those scouts intimated to me over the weekend was that this was a junk offense. It was gimmicks and gadgets, and it really worked well at Colorado like it did at Jackson State because he had Olympic wide receiver speed, and you can't cover that in small college football. And Shedeur never got pressured. When he got to the Big 12, he got pressured and he got his ass kicked because they didn't have a good offensive line. But they say he didn't do a lot. It was all short stuff, dump and run or throw it up and hope he can catch it. And then one scout said, I guess the phrase was, if you take out the bubble screens and the flare passes out on the edge out of his completion rates, and all you did was go 10 yards downfield, and all you did was calculate slants, hooks, crossing patterns, deep stuff, posts, his completion rate's 39%. Think about that. You can't have a 39% quarterback in the National Football League. So he was a product of a really great system with great track speed wide receivers at a smaller level. He took a lot of sacks. We'll find out. Now he's going to the pros. Whatever happened at Colorado doesn't matter to the Cleveland Browns. What happens right now, this is our structure. This is what we run. And what we want you to learn from, how to operate the offense, stay in the system, etc. We'll see how he acclimates himself. Can it be a fifth-round pick, be a star? Hell yes, Tom Brady was a star. Look where Brock Purdy came from. So anything is possible, but now he's in a different structure and maybe better people around him, but of course there'll be a lot more demands on him too.
Imagine when it comes down to negotiating his contract. That's going to be a whole other bit of drama as well.
No, because fifth-round picks are slotted. This is what you get, pal.
Oh, so it is slotted. Okay.
Oh, yeah. The whole thing is. See, that's why people, and I said this on KUSI on Saturday morning because they asked me on TV, why would you not take him in a second or third round? Because that's fixed position money. That's guaranteed money. That's 4 years with a 50-year option guaranteed money. And if you don't think he can play, or you don't know yet, you don't want to tie up all this cap space in somebody that you're going to have to eat a contract on in the second year that can't play. So that's why he slid and slid and slid. So it's where he came from, what they ran, and then you add on the distractions and the bling and the babes and the Lamborghinis and all that other stuff.
The Rolexes.
Yeah, I mean, that's the entourage, and some people don't want to deal with it. But the money issue and the formations and what he ran, that's the reason he was not drafted high. There's huge questions there. We're not guaranteeing 4 and 5 year deals to somebody we don't think can play, because that kills you with a cap. Make sense?
Yeah, it does. I mean, the whole slot thing does make sense. But let's get Jason in. Everyone's got an opinion on this Shedeur thing. He goes, I was a fan of his play, but Shedeur turned too many teams off with his attitude, and that is why he did not get picked early. People trying to claim racism is pathetic, and F that kid who pranked him.
Well, that's the son of the defensive coordinator at the Atlanta Falcons. Just really stupid. The kid looks at his dad's laptop and will take a couple phone numbers. I think he made calls to 3 different players just to pull a joke on him. But the kid, I will say this, Jeff Ulbricht's son already did FaceTime and apologized to Shedeur right after the story got out, and the league figured out who it was that did it, because these are all burner phones with specific phone numbers. And they pretty much figured out where the call came from. And the kid apologized within hours. So good for him. It was pretty damn stupid, though.
Yeah, it was. It was stupid. You think about these kids, this is the biggest moment of their life at that point, and you get pranked. But, it's interesting here. I mean, people are claiming racism, and it seems like the story on Shedeur Sanders shifted. Like in the beginning, it was great athlete, can make the pass. Maybe he doesn't have a big arm, but still a good athlete. But we're questioning the character. We're questioning the Dion bling and all that. But then as we got into the draft, it became more that the football side of it was the real problem. And I think everyone just accepted all of the nonsense, the traveling social media army that follows them around. It was just sort of accepted as part of the package deal. But
it was in Colorado. It's not going to damn guarantee it's not happening in Cleveland and Berea, Ohio at their training facility. You're not going to be able to get inside the locked gates to park your car as part of the entourage. No, this will be a very structured set of circumstances. Now, as you say, you must be speaking from experience in nightlife and all that, going to the flats where all the bars and the babes are in Cleveland. They can't control what the hell
you're a Cleveland guy. You know where all the hot spots are.
Been there, done that. But at the end of the day, he'll be in the damn facility 12 hours a day. He may be too tired to want to go out and party very often. So it'll settle down, it'll calm down. So the burning questions with Shedeur Sanders: how complete a quarterback is he? How much of a student of the game is he going to become? Because it's just not show up and play anymore. He's not at Jackson State playing Alcorn A&M. You're playing real people with great athletes and great coordinators. And then, is his methodology as a person going to change, and which is not the life of the party every minute of every day as he was at Colorado. So questions to be answered going forward with the Browns. It's going to be a very interesting set of OTAs. There'll be a lot of attention there, as there are in all the other camps of what all these other quarterbacks are going to be like.
Yeah, the Browns and quarterbacks, man. What a mess. Okay, let's go here to Dave EK. And he goes, ESPN has been intolerable ever since Disney bought the company. They try to emphasize their personalities and certain storylines. Remember Pac-Man and Johnny Manziel reported on every day? Ugh.
Yeah, it just went on and on and on. As a journalist, you have a responsibility. This is the story. And if they give you the freedom, this is my opinion on the story. But you just don't go back and go back and go back. And, I wrote in my column today, Mel Kiper and those guys took the oxygen out of the draft proceedings, which is usually a lot of fun and a lot of storylines and a lot of intrigue and a lot of excitement. They took the damn oxygen out of the tent because they kept going back for these expanded opinion segments, and they'd argue back and forth about Shedeur and who screwed Shedeur and how incompetent that organization is. Just it drove me out of my mind. And I thought it was really unfair to Cam Ward, because that's quite a story of who he was, where he came from, what he became.
Yeah, they do have a history of the personalities. Like right now, it's Stephen A. Smith everywhere. But it's interesting to think about the evolution of ESPN. Like in the very, very beginning, they covered the NFL draft, right? That was one of the first things. But they were also doing like equestrian events and all kinds of weird stuff.
I remember the first drafts. They used to be on Tuesday. And they'd have 2 guys at a desk just reading off names and then reading off a scouting report. And there weren't a lot of graphics. There weren't a lot of videos.
But they had those helmet football phones. Remember those?
Yeah.
Those were good.
I mean, the technology is great and what we see and all the videos and all that. And now it's become a big event. And you got a 5-man panel and everybody has an opinion. They argue back. And I understand that. But I remember the first days. It used to be on a Tuesday. was a one-day event. It was just
Yeah,
amazing.
and now they had like 12 rounds back then, too.
Yeah.
What do you think of Louis Riddick up on the panel?
He's good, but man, he's gotten really loud and really boisterous. I mean, he was screeching and yelling on this broadcast this past week, to the point that he was inflamed with Kuiper, and it went way too far. I value the opinion of the players because they experience the game and they have unique and different insights of the game. But I just don't need you yelling and screaming about this one thing forever and ever and wrecking the rest of the draft. That to me is way off the charts.
I like to, when I'm watching these things, I'll go on a little tangent and go on Wikipedia and look up people's bios. And I was looking up Riddick because I was thinking, I remember that name as a player, but it was interesting to learn about his experience as a scout. And I guess he's been interviewed for GM jobs. So this dude's legit.
Yep.
So his opinions mean a lot, but he has a different sort of energy around him than Kuiper was like coming unglued. Like Kuiper was like a Muppet.
I've never seen Kuiper like that. I mean, he was so far over the top, and it just turned me off because I've known him a long time. He interviewed him a lot, and he was one of the first to ever actually do it. He and another guy out of Brooklyn by the name of Joel Bushbaum, and then it was a guy out of Chicago, Hub Arkish. They put together the legitimate first 3 sets of draft guides for years and years. And then Joel just passed on maybe 5 years ago, 10 years ago, but he was unique. He looked as if he was a guy that sat in his mom's garage on a manual typewriter and wrote all this. That's who he was.
That's awesome.
You know, I had a great time with Joel. But Joel, you look at Joel, and he had this Brooklyn accent, and sometimes it was hard to understand what he was saying. But he knew football, and he had opinions. But you look at him and said, I always wanted to say to him, do you have to return that suit and tie to Sears by 6:00 tonight? But he was cool. And then I got to know Mel and interviewed Mel a ton of times in the early days when he was available, accessible. And he was good, but he was always a chatterbox to go 1,000 miles an hour because he has so many names in his head and all that. And he did a lot of research and homework. But he's just, over the last couple of years, he's just gotten so strong and bullyish in his opinions. And then what he did in the whole Shedeur Sanders thing just bothered me and offended me. And that's why I emailed a bunch of my player personnel scout friends in the league and said, give me your reaction. And that they all kind of spilled their guts and said, man, this is a junk system. Yeah, he's trying to disparage everything we spend our whole lifetime on doing. So interesting.
What do you think of the other sports leagues and their drafts? Because they're becoming bigger events too.
Oh, they become big stage events. Baseball struggled to figure out how to do this draft, and of course, it's not a global draft. It's just strictly Caribbean players and U.S. college kids and high school kids. But where do you put their draft? Do you put it during the College World Series where it used to be? That is kind of ill-fitting there. Doesn't make a lot of sense. It's a distraction. NBA draft has become more about French pastry. That's why you like the NBA draft. It's okay. NHL draft is just cut from a different cloth. That's in July, and they do it right around July 1st, just before free agency starts, and it's a mega event. In fact, it's coming to Los Angeles. The Kings are going to host it, I think, this coming July.
Nice.
So it's kind of cool.
Hey, maybe a remote broadcast for the podcast.
Anything's possible. We'll see. Kings, don't let me down, please. Okay, let's move on here. Fans Forum chat box is open for business.
Okay, let's get here. Go to Surf City Bill, and he goes, hey, on the bright side, Angel tickets are getting cheap.
A lot of empty seats there. I don't know if that doesn't send a message to Artie Moreno. It's just they tried hard. I'm not giving up on them, but it's obvious they don't have enough players. I mean, this losing skid they're on right now, and every one of the guys that they, quote, rented, bringing in the front door, nobody's playing very well. And poor Mike Trout, all these injuries, hitting 170, and now they've moved him to a leadoff spot, even though he's hit all these home runs. So that I think it's a long summer coming in Orange County for those poor fans. So they do have players in the farm system. They just probably have to rush a few more into the front.
It's just insane how much money and talent has flowed through that organization. And they have really just that one World Series to show for it.
Yeah. They spent a ton on free agents and they wasted a bunch. I mean, as great a person as Albert Pujols is, and I think he's going to be a major league manager, to give him a 10-year contract at at that point, I think it was 245 million total, and he was on a downhill slide then. That's
But they've had-
245 million I could have spent on other players, and they didn't draft well. About 3 years ago, they spent all 21 of their draft picks on pitchers. Not one of them has gotten to the major leagues and had success.
Yeah, it's a long history. I mean, Josh Hamilton, they even signed like Reggie Jackson was a free agent.
Well, that's
there.
way back,
But still,
1,000 years ago.
But that was like the organization has spent money on free agents at various times,
not wisely,
but not wisely. It just never seems to work.
Yeah, they got a track record of just being cursed right now. Really have. Okay, move on.
Okay, this is a two-parter from Bill's Boat, and he goes, "Hey, the refs saved Denver in game 1, and the Clippers should have won the last game too. And Lee, the hand was on the ball at 0 seconds."
Well, the NBA put out a statement late yesterday. I saw a picture that had been, what do you call it, made bigger?
Enlarged.
I'm sorry. And there was space between his finger and the ball. Now, the ball was halfway into the cylinder. I didn't know the complete rule. Please make a note of this. It's the first time in my life I said I did not know. I thought if the ball was in the cylinder, it's going to be a basket. Well, it's not. The ball has to be released. If he released the shot from the corner, if he released it 1/10 of a second, that's legitimate play. If he's above the cylinder and it's out of his fingers going into the cylinder, that's a legitimate play. So they released a picture, an enlarged picture, as grainy as it was. You could see space between here, his finger, and where the ball was. Make sense?
Well, it's cool that they can break it down like that.
Yeah.
But it seemed to me that if I remember right, that the ball was not just through the cylinder, but it was the entire ball was below the rim.
Yes.
And his fingers were on the ball going down like into the net area. But to me, it looked like the fingers were still on the ball at 0.
Mhm.
But then I was wondering, well, maybe the finger on the ball thing didn't apply because the ball had already gone through the rim.
It's got nothing to do with the cylinder. It's the finger and where the ball was as the clock got to 0-0.
What a tough way to lose a game on a play like that. It was just, it was brutal.
Oh, I mean, this thing should be over going back to Denver now. Instead, it's the best of 3, and now the Nuggets got 2 home games coming up.
Yeah, that's going to be brutal.
Have to ask Kawhi to go 39 and 39 again.
Kawhi. Well, Kawhi doesn't like altitude. I mean, he had a tough time when he was with the Aztecs at altitude. Okay, let's go here to Showtime. He goes, Hacksaw, do the Broncos have the best defense in football? Denver's going to be very difficult to pass on Barron and Surtain in some duo.
That was interesting. They said that as Jahdae Barron from Texas, the corner, slipped down the board, they couldn't believe it. And they said it was too unique an opportunity to go choose somebody else because they've been talk running back. They've been talk they were going to take Omari Hampton that the Chargers wound up with. But when Barron fell, and I've looked at some video on Barron, and he's a beast. He's a big boy, and he can play multiple roles, multiple positions. So you get him to line up with Patrick Surtain, and they got good linebacking, and they got a bunch of warriors defensively up front, led by that defensive tackle, Allen. That's a pretty good football team. So it was a little bit out of the ordinary. They didn't go get offense, but they did draft a running back later on in the draft. So, but Sean Payton said at the press conference, we couldn't believe this guy was still on the board as he was coming towards us. It changed our whole thinking because he's a really good player.
Is Payton more of an offensive mind or defensive mind?
Oh, he's crazy offense.
He's an offensive guy.
Oh, I've known him forever. He used to be out here at San Diego State way back as a young assistant.
Really?
Yeah. And he went a whole bunch of places. He was a quarterback at Eastern Illinois. He's part of that whole Eastern Illinois alumni with Mike Shanahan and Garoppolo and
Romo. Wasn't he there too?
Yeah. Yeah. They're all Eastern Illinois guys who
Interesting.
Became something. He was at Miami of Ohio as an assistant. He's sharp cookie. He's a feisty, pushy guy, but a success. Look what we did with Drew Brees in New Orleans all those years.
So, I think it's cool the way that franchise seemed to be in the worst possible position after that Russell Wilson deal.
Yep. To
suddenly now Bo Nix is the savior, and now they got this great defense. So the AFC West, man, it's going to be really competitive.
Oh, it's got to be the best division in football. How about, I said this on TV on Saturday on KUSI. How about the coaches? You got Andy Reid and all the trophies. You got Harbaugh and his resume. You obviously got Sean Payton, Super Bowl ring and success with quarterbacks. And here comes Pete Carroll. I mean, division is damn good.
Yeah, it is.
Now, I don't know if all the rosters are damn good, but the division is unbelievable in terms of leadership.
And the Raiders are making strides, right?
Well, they did. I thought so.
You gave them an A in the draft.
Yeah. I think they have themselves multiple times. Okay, move on.
Let's go here to Chris. He goes, outstanding strategy by the Kings last night. Grab a 2-goal lead, then clutch the nether regions and play zero offense after the second period. Definition of playing not to lose. Entire third period and OT looked as though the Kings were 2 men down.
Yeah, it really did. It looked like a lifetime power play. It looked like the damn rink was tilted and everything was going downhill. I mean, Darcy Kemper had so much traffic in front of him, and he was making blind saves. I don't know how he found the puck, saw the puck, and then obviously they scored. Evan Bouchard's a really good defenseman with those guys. He's got just a gun of a shot, and he just whistled 2 slap shots through traffic. And I swear, I don't think Kemper saw either one. And the Kings were just get the puck out. They weren't attacking. They weren't keeping the puck in the other zone. Now, they changed it once they got to overtime, but that time the damage was done. The momentum was all Edmonton, and it's really too bad because they had these guys on the ropes. And so, 3 of the games now that they played against Edmonton has just roared back. It's like all of a sudden as a light switch goes on and you can't stop what Edmonton's doing into the zone. And Edmonton is still a 2-man hockey team. It's Connor McDavid and Draisaitl, but God, they make so many other things happen. Edmonton's doing this with their backup goaltender. I don't know if we're ever going to see Stuart Skinner again because he's been so leaky. And now they got Cal Picard, backup journeyman, minor league guy. He's tending goals. So, but the Kings get them home. Let's go back and they get game 3. So it's now a best-of-3 series. They win this third one. Then they go back to Edmonton, and they've already won there. So, but they let this thing off the hook. They should have won this thing last night.
There's a lot of playoff series that are like that, where
Yep.
you thought the dominant team was ready to put them away, and they let them off the hook. And this whole Oiler-King rivalry going back 3 years, this could be the 4th year in the row that the Kings get knocked off by them.
It's not over. So it's fascinating. I mean, we got the Kings Oil series to talk about, and we got Winnipeg St. Louis, and they got the old Canada people must be going absolutely crazy right now with what's happened up there.
Okay, let's keep going here. Go to William. He goes, the Cowboys miss by not taking a wide receiver to help CD Lamb.
There was a lot of conversation about that, and a lot of people are of the opinion that they should address that, but a bunch of those receivers were kind of off the board at that time. And if you look at Dallas's draft list, I just got it here in front of me. That guard is really good, Ty Booker, and of course they lost Zach Martin, who is retiring. And then they got a pass rusher, and of course they lost one of their veteran pass rushers who went, I think, to the Seahawks as a free agent. So they get the Boston College pass rusher in the second round. They got this cover corner from East Carolina who's really good. I think his name's Ravel. Had a knee injury, but he's a really good football player. They got him in the third round, and then they got a running back, Jaden Blue, who's more of a pass catcher, not a heavy-duty power back. They got him in the 4th pick. He came out of the University of Texas. So they've still got to address wide receiver, but, maybe make a trade. There's been a rumor out there that they're doing something with a wide receiver and that there's some type of trade coming with Dallas. And I don't know whether it's with Ayuk in San Francisco, which might be in total rebuild mode. The rumor is Dallas is going to execute some type of transaction to get another wide receiver to go with CD Lamb. So, William is correct in terms of that need. But historically, even if people don't like Jerry Jones, let's be honest, they have really drafted well. They don't screw the draft up ever. So let's cut them some slack here because I think they did pretty well with this collection that they brought in. And they had so many injuries and their defense was such a mess last year. So they've addressed some things there.
Yeah, it's cool talking about some other teams here. William also was commenting a bit about the Texans. He says, hey, I was impressed with the Texans draft after trading out of the first round and the talent they got. Most people rated their draft an A.
Pretty good. And they've done, their management team that came from the New England Patriots has done a really good job stockpiling. They got rid of some offensive linemen. That was a problem. The Higgins kid from Iowa State, big rangy kid, can run. He's going to play a lot. I don't know very much about the offensive lineman they got from the University of Minnesota, Ursery, but the scouting reports praise him a great deal. And they really needed offensive linemen. They've got to put some better people around C.J. Stroud. But that's a very good football team, and what a great defense. D'Amico Ryans and that staff has put together there. So they've made a lot of progress. Pretty good team last year in the playoffs. Now they grow from that. Next year, even better.
Plus, they fixed the roof at NRG Stadium. Okay, let's go here to Lenny, and he goes, "Hey, talk about my Vegas Golden Knights once in a while. Chargers, I'm surprised they did solid. They just picked up another running back from South Carolina. Next, Kansas City still owns the division."
Casey's made changes. Casey's got to fix the offensive line. That's why it'll be very interesting to see how Josh Simmons turns out. He's still got rehab to do. He's the left tackle that started at San Diego State, wound up at Ohio State. But Kansas City, historically, because of Brett Veach and his people, have drafted very, very well. So let's just keep an eye on Kansas City. Obviously, the Chargers got themselves, I think, a really state-of-the-art quality running back. Denver went defense. Raiders got the Boise State superstar. Raiders still got work to do. I'm not convinced they have enough in the offensive line. And I thought they were going to make a deal to bring back one of their wide receivers, Hunter Renfrow, who had a really good 3 or 4 year run with the Raiders. Was in Vegas last week. We meet with him. Didn't sign. He just signed this morning with the Carolina Panthers. I thought they're going to bring him back. So I still think there's some things that have to be fixed with Raider football. It is interesting because I wrote about this in my column about the Shedeur Sanders thing. With all the knowledge and all the influence of Tom Brady being there in those player personnel meetings, they didn't go after Shedeur. What does that say about Shedeur and the insights that I got from all these scouts that wrote me back? Brady didn't want this guy.
Well, it confirms, what they're saying. Usually the Raiders go for the shiny object, and they didn't this time. So, by the way, what about the Golden Knights? What are your thoughts on those guys?
I just had great reservations about Aiden Hill, whether he could hold up in goal. But they got goal scorers. They got depth. That's a pretty good hockey team. And I think the way the playoffs are structured, I want to say Vegas plays whoever survives the Kings-Edmonton series. So it's Western Conference playoffs, NHL. No place for the timid. It's pretty good.
Yeah, Callan was saying a lot of knuckle sandwiches out there. Hey, you want to take a few social media?
Do it.
Let's do it. All right, let's go down here, the list. And okay, let's go here to Dodgers. Dodger fan. This is from John Durr talking about Blake Snell and his injuries. He says, Dodgers are not concerned with the first half of the season. They want a guy who's lights out in the second half because the playoffs are in the second half.
That is true. I concur. But if you're paying that kind of money, do you not want somebody that's a full season contributor? And, if I'm sitting here with the Dodgers now you got a problem with Snell having a plasma platelet injection, which means months. He sits. You got the Snell shoulder, and now you got the Glasnow shoulder, and his history of physically breaking down. You got your 2 highest paid pitchers have got real significant issues here. So we'll see what the MRI report is. We'll probably get a better indication tomorrow when the Dodgers come back and move back in. I think that they play Miami. Thank goodness they're playing Pittsburgh and Miami right now. But Dodgers pitching is really nicked up. Now, they got guys coming. Gonsolin's going to be the first. Looks like maybe Kershaw's ahead of the curve. Kershaw will be back in whatever the role they design. And then sometime in May, late May, maybe Ohtani. So there's help on the way.
Do you ever get the sense, though, like in the first half of the season, a lot of teams, of course they're playing to win, but, they figure if they're 500 or above by the All-Star break, they're fine, because they can still get hot in August. That's what the Padres did last year. Mm-hmm. So maybe Dodger fans are thinking the same thing. And hey, no big deal. We're in third place right now. We're probably a game or 2 out of first. We got the troops are coming. The cavalry's coming.
I think it's in LA. It's different because the cavalry is coming. All you need to do is look at the roster of guys that are in recovery, that are pitching in rehab right now, or guys that are in AAA that can be called back up. The Dodgers have much more depth. I guarantee if I give you a piece of paper with the Padres depth chart, you say, my God, there's nobody at AAA in El Paso that could pitch at the major league level. Can't say that about everybody at Oklahoma City because a whole bunch of those guys have already pitched there.
Yeah, and I think the Dodgers are a unicorn that way. I mean, how many teams can really say they've got a lot of depth at AAA and AA? Not many.
That's where we are. Okay, move on.
Okay, let's talk here about the Rams. And this is from Egon. He goes, man, I have 100% confidence in McVay and Snead to get this right.
Well, they've had 3 good drafts in a row. Last 2 years, they got 5 starters on defense just out of the draft alone. Now, there obviously is going to be a question next year, and I think that was the genesis of the trade to get the additional number 1 pick. They're going to have to get a quarterback because Matthew Stafford will then be 38. And although he's indicated in drop hints he wants to play this year and next year, there's got to be somebody in line. I really thought if they could trade into the second round that they would have taken mroe from Alabama because they did work him out and liked him. He's a bit of a project, and there's a lot of unpolished areas to Jalen Milroe's game coming from the Crimson Tide, but they didn't do that. They went other places. But no, track record, their resume. I mean, what Snead has done, obviously what McVay has done as a teacher, you got to believe that they're going to be pretty good. And as long as they keep Matthew Stafford standing upright, and as long as they stay away from critical injuries, I think that's a really, really good team. And, just looking here at the Rams list, and again, they didn't draft till the second round, but I'll tell you, that tight end, Terrence Ferguson, that's a player. He had 88 receptions at Oregon. That's a really good football player. And they got this pass rusher from Michigan, Josiah Stewart. And again, that's another speed guy to go what they got in the defensive front last season. So they do a really, really good job in terms of player personnel. That Snead does not get as much respect as probably he should. And I think McVay's a hell of a coach.
Yeah, that's like 3D chess those guys are doing, or 4D chess or whatever. So they did not get a quarterback, right?
No.
So next year's class, I mean, we know about Arch Manning. What are some of the other big name quarterbacks that are going to be coming out?
Oh, my brain is so fried. I couldn't tell you. I off the top of my head, I can't tell you. Penn State quarterback is coming back. He came back this year, stayed in school. Drew Allar. He'll be one of the ones that'll probably be there. But off the top of my head, I can't think of.
What about the quarterback that was at Tennessee and now is at UCLA?
Yeah, but he's a redshirt freshman, and that he didn't set the world on fire at Tennessee. He was surrounded by great people, threw 19 touchdown passes, 5 interceptions, but he's not ready to be an NFL draft pick at this point. There's a whole maturity thing there with him too.
Okay. All right, let's keep moving here. And let's talk about the Padres. And this is from Word. And he goes, horrible take at the end. You talk about Luis Ariz. Luis Ariz's injury was because the fielder ran through the bag. He was all the way on the other side of the bag and hit him with the shoulder and a forearm. A second base wouldn't have helped. What was needed was a more competent fielder. That was one of the dirtiest plays you'll see in a long time.
I don't know that it was dirty. I thought it was bang, bang. I thought they both got there simultaneously, and Ariz hit Dubon's shoulder. I don't think Dubon did this, but there was contact. Dubon was coming forward.
Well, he did this. I mean, there was a forearm shiver in there.
No, he didn't. I don't think so. I think it was a violent collision, but that was because Dubon's body was getting to the bag with the ball, and his body, the momentum was going this way. Ariz was coming full power this way. It was bad collision. I don't think it was a cheap shot by any stretch of the imagination. It was a bang, bang, really quick, dangerous, scary play.
It was bang, bang. And I think, Word makes a fair point that having that second base on first base in foul territory, that might not have helped. I mean, because it was a collision.
Yep.
And
Dubon's momentum was carrying him across the bag. And even if there had been that second bag on the outer edge, his momentum was going to carry him that way because that's where his body was going full bore as he had caught the ball on the run.
Yeah, I just hope Ariz comes back. I mean, he was actually starting to show a little bit of power this season.
And he was hitting again, but that was a jolt. And when he said Sunday in the clubhouse, because he started doing some batting practice, and we think he's going to do a full batting practice on Tuesday, but he's got to run. He's got to pound yet before, and then see how his body reacts. So I don't know if doctors are ready to clear him yet, but when he said I've had constant headaches, and I could not stay awake. I said I was groggy, and I slept all the time. That's significant concussion. So even though he might be out of the concussion protocol, he's still got to do baseball-related physical exertion activities and see how his body responds. And then you mentioned hand-eye coordination. That comes into the equation too.
Yeah, and then imagine, when you have a headache and you're running,
Yeah.
it makes the headache just horrible. So, yeah, I mean, it's concussion. They're going to have to go slow.
So, but I'm sorry, word that was not a cheap shot. That was a violent collision. That stuff happens.
Okay, let's keep moving here, and we'll go talk Chargers. Great effing pick of talking about Hampton.
Yep. Totally agree with you wholeheartedly. I mean, there were 2 running backs in the first round, and he was projected to be in that slot sometime from 20 back. I mean, the rumor out there was Denver was going to take him, that he was the Denver choice until Barron, the star cornerback, started to slip from Texas. And then bingo, Broncos said, we're taking the cornerback to put next to Surtain, and Hampton falls to the Chargers with ideal choice. They need playmakers. So there was, at that point, the top 2 receivers that they could have gone after were already off the board. So you weren't going to take the 3rd-rated receiver who was much farther down. So you go with the second-best running back, which was good. I thought the Bolts had a good draft. So.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I don't know much about this Hampton kid. I mean, the reports sound good. I think when we see him on the field, we're going to know for sure.
Mm-hmm.
But how big is he?
6'1", 221.
That's tall for a running back.
Yep. He's physical, and does not have the speed of Genty. Austin Genty has an extra gear. When Genty gets into that second level and his ability to cut and boom, explode. He doesn't have that, but he is good and he's shifty. And he'll run over people. He's thick.
Is he big like Derrick Henry?
Not as big. Derrick Henry's 6'2", 6'3".
Yeah, that guy's giant.
250. Now this guy's 221. But like I said, John, 3,600 yards, all-purpose yards in 2+ years at North Carolina, 5.7 yards per carry. Mark Mann. Now he played with Drake May 1 year. So I think he's a really good football player. Everybody else I know thinks he's a good football player. So good choice.
Good. Right on. Okay, let's keep going here. Kings Oilers. This is from Carlos. He goes, Kings, Kings, Kings. LA is on fire. If they get Edmonton, they can win it all. Thoughts? Next series would be against Vegas or Minnesota.
Burning question, though. You let them back in. That's the big thing. This sucker should be 3-1 coming home, and it's not. Now it's 2-2, and it's an enormous challenge because McDavid and Draisaitl just scare the crap out of you. When they're on the ice, they are so fast, and they just change the whole concept of what you're trying to do defensively. And the Kings, when the Kings won that first game, they clogged up center ice. They never let them get speed into the zone. And then what happened in the third period last night was all of a sudden there were all these creases because the Kings were not able to stay with them. And all of a sudden those guys were getting shots in the slot and the guys were getting passes off on the wings and they were getting shots on the goaltender. And the whole thing evaporated just so quickly. I mean, they had 50 shots on goal in that game last night. The Oilers did. So series is not over. We'll see if the Kings can get it back, get control back, and they're just going to have to man up. They're going to have to play the body, and they're going to have to slow them down at center ice again. And they've proven they can do it. They took them out of the games in different segments for chunks at time. But those guys are so damn dangerous. All of a sudden, you look up, it's like I told John, it's like the rink is tilted, and everything's going downhill into the Kings zone. And you just can't get control of that back, and that's happened 3 times in this series. That's why there's 13-5. Goals scored in the third period and overtime. Edmonton's got the edge. That's what happens.
It's an interesting rivalry to me because right now the Kings are the favorite in this series, right? I mean, they're seeded, they're the favorite. But in the previous 3 years, weren't the Oilers the favorite?
Sure. Oilers are great. And the Kings had not gotten there, and their Kings were with a roster that was starting to come together. But got to learn how to win at this level that this team has won. And I don't know what you're doing tomorrow night at 7:00, but take a break from Padre baseball. Oh, no, sorry, the Giants are playing, so you'd probably be unbearable.
Yeah.
But watch the Kings and the Oilers tomorrow night because that'd be big boy hockey.
Big boy.
All right, listen, we hope you have enjoyed everything we've tried to bring your way because we do sports talk the way it should be done here.